Chinese archaeologists have reconstructed the face of a 6th century emperor, Wu, using some new DNA techniques. And what is notable is that the discovery can actually now help understand the cause of his early death. The Wu was highly influential, an emperor who ruled over northern Zhao dynasty, and he died at the age of 36.
What if the tomb of China's first emperor isn't only protecting the famous Terracotta Army, but something far more unsettling? Imagine a vast clay army slowly uncovered after lying buried for more than 2,000 years. Each statue silent, yet telling a story of power, fear, and mystery. Over 2,000 years ago, Qin Shi Huang united China under one rule. He built a tomb so secretive that even today, it remains sealed.
The mausoleum that Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, had built for himself.
The burial site of China's first emperor, untouched, mysterious, and filled with questions we still can't answer. Researchers believe the statues buried around his tomb were crafted not just as decoration, but as guardians to protect him in the afterlife. But now, scientists have found more, traces of unknown metals, biological remains, and even fragments of writing deep inside the complex. And one theory shakes everything we thought we knew. The emperor's DNA might not be fully Chinese. If that's true, history could be rewritten forever. The emperor wasn't a man who asked, he took. Let's find out. The emperor's hidden legacy. The year was 221 BC. China wasn't a single nation yet. It was a land of rival kingdoms, constant wars, and fragile alliances. Then came Qin Shi Huang. He didn't just seize power, he wiped out his enemies and declared himself China's first emperor. Qin wasn't satisfied with half measures. He built an empire where every weight, coin, and written word followed his rules. To him, control meant power, and he craved both. He unified language, money, and measurement across all lands. Everyone used the same writing, counted the same way, and traded with the same coins. There were no exceptions. And when it came to his legacy, he didn't rely on paper. He carved it into the land itself. The Great Wall, or at least its earliest version, started with him. He ordered local walls to be joined together into one continuous line, stretching thousands of miles. It wasn't just a defense, it was a message. A border drawn in stone declaring, "This is the empire now." But Qin didn't stop there. He built massive road systems, spreading across thousands of miles, connecting distant regions like veins in a living body. He dug canals, not only to bring water, but also to move armies, goods, and messages. His vision wasn't of a king planning for the future. It was of a ruler demanding eternity. And for a man obsessed with eternity, his final resting place had to match his ambition.
More than half a century has passed since the discovery of the terracotta warriors guarding the grave of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang in Xi'an.
Hidden beneath a mountain, sealed under silence, his tomb became his final empire. A city for the dead. Mount Li, in Shanxi province, hides one of history's greatest secrets. That's where Qin Shi Huang's final statement lies, not written in ink, but built in stone, metal, and clay. Construction began even before he united China. Long before he became emperor, while still just a king, he started preparing for the afterlife. By the time he ruled all of China, thousands of laborers worked day and night to complete his underground city. Some records say over 700,000 people were involved. Whether or not that number is exact, the scale is beyond imagination. More than 20 square miles of buried structures. At its center stands a massive mound, 250 feet high, hiding a sealed chamber no one has ever entered. Around it lies a miniature kingdom, underground palaces, offices, stables, and everything an emperor might need in eternity. But the most breathtaking discovery was made by accident. In 1974, farmers digging a well found fragments of clay, parts of soldiers, horses, and chariots. What they uncovered became one of the most important finds in archaeology, the Terracotta Army. Life-sized and fully armed, these figures stood ready for battle. Each one was different, unique faces, hairstyles, and armor. Most stood about 5 feet 11 inches tall, taller if they represented generals. Horses, chariots, and real bronze weapons once painted in bright colors surrounded them. Over time, the paint faded, but the craftsmanship remained. These weren't simple statues. They were a reflection of the emperor's mind, organized, controlled, and precise. Qin Shi Huang didn't just want to be remembered. He wanted obedience that lasted even beyond death. Yet amid all this grandeur, one question lingered: who built it all? For centuries, that part of the story stayed buried, until 2003. In 2003, archaeologists exploring near the outer edges of the emperor's burial complex found scattered bones, dozens of human skeletons, unmarked and unprotected. No sign of ritual or respect, just remains. These weren't nobles or warriors. They were laborers, the forgotten people who built the emperor's empire underground. Ancient records had whispered about their fate. The historian Sima Qian wrote of men forced to work on the tomb, many of whom never returned. Some dynasties that followed claimed thousands of workers died during construction, exhausted, starved, or executed to protect the tomb's secrets. But science soon stepped in to uncover the truth. Researchers extracted mitochondrial DNA from 19 of the remains.
The mitochondrial DNA control region is a limited information that we get from an unknown sample.
This type of DNA survives longer in old bones and passes down from mothers to children, offering clues about ancestry and origins. The findings were shocking. The workers weren't from one place. They came from all over the empire and beyond. Of the 19 samples, 16 showed completely different maternal lineages. That kind of diversity doesn't happen in one village. It happens when people are brought together from across vast regions. Some came from the north, others from the southern coast, and one had genetic markers linking to ancient populations near Japan. This wasn't a small team. It was a forced collection of people, peasants, prisoners, and possibly exiles, all trapped in the emperor's vision. Many were likely war captives, taken during Qin's campaigns and sent to build the tomb. Others were conscripted laborers from distant provinces. The evidence in their bones tells a story of hardship, malnutrition, joint damage, and broken bodies worn down by endless labor. And when they died, they weren't buried as heroes. There were no graves, no honors, only silence and soil. Their DNA revealed more than ancestry. It revealed how far the emperor's power reached. But under that same ground where they worked and died, something else waited. Something sealed, untouched, and dangerous. Beneath the mound. Beneath Mount Li lies a sealed tomb, the emperor's resting place. For over 2,000 years, it's remained unopened. And there's a reason for that. From the outside, it looks like a peaceful hill covered with trees and grass. But underneath, it's a different world. One engineered with precision and mystery. Ancient texts describe the tomb as being decorated with paintings of the night sky and a floor carved into a map of China, complete with rivers made of mercury. As strange as it sounds, soil tests taken near the site found mercury levels hundreds of times higher than normal. There are also stories of traps, mechanical crossbows set to fire at anyone who dares to enter, walls designed to collapse, chambers filled with hidden dangers. Whether these are true or not, no one wants to find out the hard way. Even when archaeologists explored outer areas of the complex, they noticed something troubling. The moment artifacts were exposed to air, their colors faded and materials began to crack. That's why the main chamber remains closed. It's not that scientists can't open it, it's that they fear opening it might destroy history in an instant. But rumors persist, because what lies inside might not just be treasures and traps. It could include something even more shocking. Some researchers believe that biological traces found near the tomb might belong to the emperor himself. and what they discovered in that DNA could change everything we know about him. Scientists studying genetic traces from objects near the tomb claim to have found something unusual. Instead of showing a pure connection to early Chinese populations, parts of the DNA seem to link westward, towards Central Asia. If that's true, it would mean China's first emperor might not have had entirely local ancestry. His roots could stretch far beyond the borders of early China. For historians, this idea was explosive. It suggested that ancient cultures were more connected than we ever realized. But for others, it was unsettling. The idea that the founder of China's empire might have carried foreign blood. If Qin's ancestry reached beyond his own land, what did that say about his vision of unity? About his empire? Theories spread fast, some calling it evidence of early migration and exchange, others arguing it could reshape how history sees the origins of Chinese civilization itself. And that's only the beginning. Because if we can map DNA from emperors this ancient, what happens when scientists begin to do the same for pharaohs, kings, and rulers from every corner of the world? History could literally be rewritten, not by words, but by genes. But hidden inside the emperor's tomb might be something even more powerful than DNA. Something written, something meant to stay buried. The words they tried to erase. The year was 213 BC, 8 years before Qin Shi Huang's death. By then, he had already unified China's land, laws, language, and money. But for him, that wasn't enough. He wanted to unify thought itself, and for that, he turned to fire. Historical records say he ordered all books that challenged his rule to be burned. Anything not aligned with the strict legalist philosophy was destroyed. Poems, philosophies, records of history, all went up in flames. Hundreds of scholars were punished, and some reports even claim they were buried alive for refusing to obey. But even in that darkness, people resisted. Some scholars risked their lives to hide precious texts. They buried scrolls in caves, sealed manuscripts inside temple walls, and copied pieces in secret. Fragments survived through courage and quiet rebellion. This is what makes the sealed tomb even more mysterious. Many researchers now believe that deep within the emperor's hidden chamber, along with his treasures and traps, there might also be texts, ancient scrolls, bamboo slips, or silk manuscripts sealed in airtight vaults. These could include forgotten laws, maps, or even the emperor's private writings, thoughts and plans he never meant anyone to see. And it might not be a wild theory. Other tombs from the same period, like those in Mawangdui and Shuihudi, have already revealed lost manuscripts that changed how we view ancient China. Inside those tombs, archaeologists found maps, medical texts, early engineering designs, and writings that showed how advanced ancient science really was. If Qin Shi Huang's tomb holds even a fraction of that kind of knowledge, it could rewrite everything we know about early civilization. Imagine finding detailed records of how he ran his empire, or inventions we thought came centuries later. Maybe that's why the tomb remains closed, because it's not just protecting a body. It might be protecting knowledge, secrets that were never meant to leave that underground world. But Qin's biggest obsession wasn't knowledge. It was defeating death itself. Qin Shi Huang built walls, roads, and armies. He reshaped a continent and commanded millions. But no matter how much he achieved, one thing stood in his way: death. He couldn't accept that he would one day die. So he set out to stop it. Ancient texts tell us that he became obsessed with the idea of immortality, not as a symbol, but literally living forever. He sent expeditions across deserts and oceans, searching for magical islands and herbs that were said to grant eternal life. One of his envoys, a man named Shu Fu, sailed east with thousands of young men and women, never to return. Some legends say they reached Japan and founded new settlements there. Whether that's true or not, the emperor's desperation was real. Back in the capital, Qin turned to his court alchemists. They promised to create potions and pills that could make him immortal. The key ingredient? Cinnabar, mercury sulfide. People back then believed mercury had mystical powers, that it could preserve the body and spirit. But what they didn't know was that mercury is poison. Modern scientists believe Qin Shi Huang may have slowly poisoned himself. Historical records describe him becoming paranoid, unstable, and unpredictable toward the end of his life, symptoms that match mercury poisoning. He died at just 49 years old. And the irony couldn't be sharper. The man who wanted to live forever may have caused his own death by chasing immortality. Even today, mercury still flows through trenches under his tomb. The same substance that killed him now guards his remains. Its toxic fumes and contamination are one reason why archaeologists can't safely open the main chamber. It's as if the emperor's obsession still works. His tomb remains untouched, protected by the poison that took his life. But that's not the only strange thing he may have left behind. Some researchers believe that within his empire, Qin built something far ahead of its time, an early form of surveillance. When people think of Qin Shi Huang, they remember his army, his walls, and his tomb. But what if his control reached even further, through something that sounds like an ancient version of a surveillance system? Old Chinese records from the Qin dynasty mention watcher officials stationed along major roads and canals. Their job was to monitor movement, collect reports, and send information to the capital. At first, historians thought these were just local administrators. But new archaeological findings suggest something more complex. Excavations near old Qin roadways uncovered hollow structures and remains of tall signal towers placed at regular distances. Some of these contained strange bronze objects and shapes that looked like early communication tools. When researchers studied the placement of these towers, they noticed a pattern. The distances between them matched the spacing of known courier relay stations. Messages could have been passed quickly along these routes, like a network running through the empire. Some scholars now believe Qin's empire may have operated a primitive communication grid, possibly the earliest organized information system in history. Through it, he could track crop production, population changes, and even local disputes. In simple terms, the emperor might have been running the world's first surveillance state. Some theorize that the central tomb itself could contain written records or blueprints of this system, documents listing names, reports, or codes used to control information. If those scrolls are ever found, they might reveal how deeply the emperor understood control, not just through armies or laws, but through knowledge itself. And the story doesn't end there. The tomb might also hide a room that mirrors the empire in more ways than one. One of the most fascinating details in ancient records is the claim that the floor of Qin Shi Huang's burial chamber was carved into a full-scale map of his empire. According to historian Sima Qian, the emperor's tomb contained miniature mountains, bronze palaces, and flowing mercury rivers that represented real waterways across China. For years, people dismissed it as legend, poetic exaggeration meant to glorify the emperor. But modern surveys using magnetic scanning and ground-penetrating radar have revealed something surprising. Underground structures arranged in geometric patterns beneath the mound. Some experts believe these match the layouts of Qin's administrative zones. If that's true, then the map wasn't symbolic. It was real. This could mean the tomb holds records of places and routes that no longer exist. Ancient cities, lost borders, or secret outposts erased from history. It might even include the locations of military routes or hidden passages we've never known about. And there's another theory. Some researchers think those mercury rivers weren't only decorative. They might have been part of an early engineering system, using the conductive properties of mercury to create flow or connection. Perhaps a symbolic imitation of cosmic balance, aligning the tomb with heaven and earth. If true, then the emperor wasn't just trying to map his world. He was trying to mirror the universe itself, preserving his empire in miniature form beneath the ground. His map might still be there, waiting for the day someone dares to open the tomb. The sound that never fades. Amid all the discoveries, the army, the poisons, the maps, there's one strange detail that few people talk about: sound. During excavations around the outer chambers, archaeologists found curved pieces of pottery and narrow bronze tubes buried in repeating patterns along tunnels. At first, they were dismissed as pipes or drainage systems. But when a group of researchers from Beijing studied the layout, they made an unexpected discovery. These shapes could have been designed to carry sound. Tests on site replicas showed that whispers and footsteps could travel through these tunnels and chambers clearly, even over 100 feet away. Some believe this was intentional, an early form of acoustic design. Was it made for rituals? To scare off intruders with echoes? Or did the emperor, obsessed with power and control, want his tomb to be alive with sound even after death? If that's true, his tomb wasn't just a burial chamber. It was a place where sound, his voice, his commands, or the echoes of prayers, might still travel through the walls. Even now, the idea is chilling. The notion that Qin Shi Huang designed a tomb that could speak, not with words, but with echoes, gives a whole new meaning to immortality. Because maybe, for him, silence wasn't peace. It was only the pause before another echo. So, what really lies beneath Mount Li? Is it just an ancient tomb filled with treasures and clay soldiers? Or is it something far bigger, a buried empire, a message, or a warning left by the man who tried to control life and death? The Terracotta Army was only the beginning. The mercury, the maps, the bones, the DNA, the strange artifacts, all point to something deeper. A civilization that was far more advanced and complex than history books once told us. And maybe that's why the tomb remains closed. Because some doors once opened can't be shut again. What do you think still rests down there, sealed in silence for over 2,000 years? And should it ever be opened at all? Let me know your thoughts, because some secrets, once uncovered, might just change everything we thought we knew about our past and ourselves.